I guess I'm live. Wow. So I'm going to play this video of the start, which I usually do as my countdown thing, but I'm going to talk about it over the commentary provided. I will point out right now that the boat on your upper right is Il Moro di Venezia. The boat on your left is America Cubed. This is the 1992 America's Cup race, the final race, race 6 of the 1992 America's Cup, which America Cubed went on to win. The skipper of Il Moro is Paul Cayard, and the helmsman, the skipper and helmsman of Il Moro is Paul Cayard. The helmsman for the start for America Cubed is a guy named Dave Dellenbaugh. And the skipper was Bill Koch. The skipper slash helmsman, Bill Koch, and also Buddy Melgus was the upwind primarily helmsman. Anywho, I'm just gonna throw this thing on, and y'all can watch, and I'll talk this through and tell you what I see here.
Just like Thursday, the boat in trouble. This time, Il Moro was able to wriggle off the hook with 1:30 to go, and now they hold a favored position.
They hold a favored position because they are lured. The wind is coming, if you can imagine, the wind coming off your left shoulder and headed towards the spectator fleet there. They are both on port tack, but Il Moro is the lured boat, and the lured boat has the right of way. Which means that Il Moro can point herself up into the wind, and America Cube needs to keep clear. So the boat that we're looking over at the white boat there, the white boat is the burden vessel. This is a match race, so what you're looking at there is the starting line. Both boats are over the starting line, and Il Moro is bearing off.
He'll be going faster when the gun goes off.
Okay, so what the commentators are saying here is he'll be going faster, which is to say that Il Moro decided to disengage and bear off and get below the starting line, which you need to be on the course side of the starting line before you actually start. If you're not on the course, I'm sorry, you need to not be on the course side when you start in order to make it a fair race. You need to be on the pre-start side of the starting line before you actually start. Otherwise, you are scored OCS, which is on the course side, which means that you didn't stop properly. It's like a runner jumping out of their blocks, a little bit prematurely. Way.
20, 17.
Now, America Cubed is now dipping below the starting line there. You see them dipping below the starting line. Now their entire boat is below the starting line. 4, 3, 2, 1, gun.
Another clean start and another good job by
And we see that Dellenbaugh started at the pin, which was the favored end of the line, further upwind, closer to the weather mark, than Il Moro, who was maybe I don't know, a tiny bit, maybe a wee bit shy of the starting line. So in fact,
just like Thursday, the boat in trouble. This time, no more. Dellenbaugh. And another good job by Dellenbaugh.
another good job by Dellenbaugh. Anyway, sorry guys, I've been meaning to go through this little bit about this match race and the way that start looks for any of you who happen to come by later. Anyway, that's a little lighthearted commentary on what I want to talk about at this late hour, but there we go. Get rid of this. Yeah, I don't need this in a remove. Okay, so I'm back. I didn't think this would happen again. No matter what I could do or say, just that I didn't think this would happen again, with or without my best intentions. And I don't know what it's going to take to get folks to realize that it's what people do that matters. It's not really what they believe. I mean, I can't count the number of tales and stories and novels, either, or poems or whatever, that I've heard or read or seen where people with horrendous beliefs wind up doing good things, and people with otherwise admirable beliefs wind up doing horrid things. I think that's one of the things that gets missed or is missing in discourse. It's like, what do people do with their channels, their platforms, their lives, their this, that, and the other thing? And I know as a flawed person, I've done things that I'm not proud of. And my beliefs don't really count. Whether I thought I was being good, whether I thought I was being bad, doesn't really matter. It's what did I do? Did I hurt somebody? Did I hurt somebody once? Should I acknowledge that? Should I pay attention to that? Or should I not? And should I do either of those things in relationship to something I read in a book, in a Bible, for instance, just for instance, or in a in a piece of philosophy, or in a piece of history. Beliefs are fungible, acts are not. Beliefs are changeable, acts are not. I kind of hold myself to a I don't know. I want to be able to forgive people for fucking up, because I think that I fuck up plenty. and I hope for forgiveness, but I can't possibly demand it. And I think that anybody who does something bad, terrible, nasty, if they recognize that they do that, should be willing to ask for forgiveness but not expect it. I also think that we play games with each other because it's kind of a human thing to do. I think we're game players. We're storytellers. We make the moves and do the things in our daily lives, and some of them are games and some of them are bullshit. Some of them are sincere. Some of them are. You can't be all that sincere all the fucking time. I mean, you got to have a little bit of fun. But I made the title of this thing, what are we saying when we focus on the word? And that's what I kind of mean. It's like we focus on the words and not on the actions. Especially in YouTube land, especially in atheist YouTube land, or this or the other YouTube land that we're talking about, that we participate in, that I'm participating in right now. So again, this thing happened tonight. Well, and the situation is that an individual who actually did something harmful to people I love and people I know, was afforded a platform by people I love and people I know. Because they're very clever presenters, I guess, of arguments over Christianity, or arguments over ontology, and arguments over, once you get the ontology down, then there's arguments over epistemology, and there's arguments over this, that, and the other thing. And all of us, to be honest, I'm going to be 70 in a month, man. A little bit more, but I'm also going to be 21 in a few days. But anyway, that's the life of a trans person. we have milestones that might be different from some. I've argued with, and am glad to argue with people who doubt the reality of my existence, or my sanity. But I'm not really willing to afford people a platform to take elements of my life and put them before the public in a way that is mocking or meant to harm. I've had many conversations with people who are mocking and mean to harm. But those are conversations. Those are words. Those aren't deeds. And I think it's incumbent upon people to consider whether people who are engaging in arguments that we enjoy listening to and watching and debates and this and such are worth listening to when they've done things that have actively harmed, personally done things that have actively harmed people beyond what they say, beyond what their words are. I think that people need to think about that before they feature people in a medium that is, that's basically out to build itself up. I mean, I'm sitting here on YouTube, right, talking about this stuff. I'm hopeful that people will appreciate my thoughts. I'm also hopeful that people will like and subscribe and enjoy the channel. I'm also hopeful that I'm not driving people away, and I know I've done that in the past because I'm a taciturn old lady. I mean, it's kind of weird. There's an old Paul Simon song that goes, it's called Old Friends, and one of the lyrics is how terribly strange to be 70, and it is. You'll get there. Good Lord, when the creek don't rise. But I went through this in early, in June of 2022, and I'm not going to get into the bullshit. But almost the exact same thing happened tonight on another channel, and I'm just going, oh my God, not this shit again. I was like, really? Oh my word. I think people really need to take into consideration the fundamentals here. It's like, no, it's not what people say. It's what they do. There was some pushback in the circumstance, and I was like, well, if we didn't talk to these people, it's like if we just relied on what theists have done, terrible things that theists have done in the past, we'd never get any theists to call in. It's like, that's total bullshit. That's total bullshit. The only thing my nephew has ever done is love me. The only thing my niece has ever done is love me. The only thing my sister has ever done is love me. The only thing my brother has ever done is love me. It's like, you fucking, fuck right the fuck off with that nonsense. Those people had a heartfelt belief in a supernatural super daddy to a greater or lesser degree. But at the end of the day, I would have to say probably my sister is my closest sibling. Had a fundamental God belief. Not a fundamentalist God belief, but a fundamental one. So I don't buy that. I don't buy that as an argument. I don't think I don't think any of my relatives would make for a controversial call, except that I think that they would actually be good callers from a theist perspective. And I think that some of the more militant atheists that I know, including myself, would have a good conversation with them. And would also shake their hands and say, thank you for all of the good work you've done. Moving forward, humanist goals in your life. But when your project is actively moving back perceptions of people, humanist goals, and all of that sort of thing, do you think we really need to be affording them a platform? Well, never mind that thing I did burning a cross on your neighbor's lawn. Let's just talk about ontology and eschatology and epistemology and all of this other stuff. And let's just have a bullshit argument over it. Let's just do that. Okay? It's like, no, dude. You burned a fucking cross on my neighbor's lawn. No. Sorry, no. So when somebody shows up on a platform that I'm involved with in some respects, who's posted private information about another trans person, even me. I mean, it's like, if it's me, it's fine. You know, you go ahead and do it. And most trans people will basically say, it's like, well, you know, my shit's out there. I put it out there. You can find it. And so you can do what you do. That's the vulnerability we all have in the internet age. Everything we do is there. Everything I'm saying right now is there. People can hate me for it, excoriate me for it, use it any way they want. I can get clipped. I can do anything. But when somebody does that, especially if it springs from their God beliefs, which have a certainly shaky foundation, in my view anyway. That's the thing I object to. I wish people wouldn't do that. I wish people wouldn't afford. I wish that individuals, channels, organizations would appreciate, especially in this day and age when people like me are terribly at risk, legislatively, socially, would recognize what allyship is. Because you've got, it's not enough to fly a flag or say transphobia is not tolerated here, or our mods in the chat will bump you if you use bad language. All of those things are important, but more important to me is recognizing, no matter how valuable, no matter how tempting it is to platform somebody who has a certain notoriety, who has a talent for being expressive online, who everybody knows. I mean, it's like reruns of the Lucy Show when you platform. All right, I'll say it just this once in this stream. Oh, Tangelo. When you know what they've done, not their stupid opinions, not their dumb takes on philosophical matters, but when you know what they've done. It doesn't matter how much you can flex. It really doesn't. It doesn't matter how much you wanna feature the cogency of your own arguments. It doesn't matter. Because that's not what they want. What they want is a platform. And in this milieu, you know, it's showbiz. I guess it's tasty to build up controversy, and maybe I'm doing that right now, right? I have no idea. I've got 4 people watching this thing now, and it's all good. But I just kind of wanted to spill this stuff out. Because this is like the second time this has happened, and it's all good right now, okay? It's all good. It's all good with me, and it's all good as far as I know. It's all good with everybody else involved in the whole thing, with the exception of the guy I just, because of what he did, I just don't want to engage with, and won't. It's like, sorry. But I do not want to engage with people who have done with scant, and I do mean scant, recognition or apology there are places where maybe they shouldn't be welcome. That's all I got. I appreciate your coming in. Carrie Ann, nice to see you. Kentucky Atheist, thank you for dropping by. I just wanted to say a few words and I don't want to rant, but I want y'all to know why I do what I do. And when I do pull out Steffi asshole, she comes out with good intent, not ill intent. And for those of you, I'm thinking of Doc Dino, I really went off on them, and I really shouldn't have done. For those of you who don't appreciate this, I hope this makes a little bit of sense if you watch this. Because it's been a long time, man. I mean, it's been a long time. For me, it's been a long life. I've seen lots of injustice. And for a long time, I didn't realize the privilege I had. in escaping from that injustice. Although, unlike many in my many like me, I did not grow up in an all-white church and an all-white, pretty white suburb, but not all the time. And I just sort of I try to cultivate empathy. Sometimes I'm not successful in having the empathy myself. But one thing I can't stand is people sitting by knowing what someone has done. To another person, personally. And wishing to engage them. Simply for the knowledge that that engagement simply gonna, boost ratings. To be frank, I did another whole video on this argument that I pursued with a major atheist organization over these very topics. But the same fucking thing happened, and I feel terrible about it. I think that unlike the last situation, things are a little bit better. But man, I still find it weird that that point, it's not what you say, it's what you do. And if you do something that egregious, then you don't get a platform again, okay? Until you suck it up, buttercup, and say, hey, I was wrong. There's always a place for understanding. There's always a place for compassion. There's always a place somewhere in there. Do better. I try. But I hope we all, I hope we all, and I, learn to do better. So for those of you who did watch the Skeptic's Haven stream this evening, that's what was going through my mind. And I don't think that I fully support Skeptic Haven, the folks there. I'm going to be on this now anyway. I'm going to be on hosting a fundraiser because I do think that we need more channels and better channels. And I do having had lots of interaction with Kat and Wes and folks and Sonny and folks over there, I think they're trying and learning. I don't think they're transphobic in the least. I think that mistakes happen. I think that human hurt happens. I think that after that happens, and it's pointed out, you talk about it. We talked about it. It's good. From my perspective, anyway. Again, like I'm seeing comments in the chat. I don't know precisely whether you're talking about Jester. I don't know if you're talking about the ACA, if you're talking about somewhere else, but you know, it's just, to me, it doesn't matter. And it's just, he did it, and he did what he did. He did what he did. And for that, you don't get to come on and blow V8. You know, you don't get to come on and pull out your Darth Dawkins and Darth Mini-Me, Darth Dawkins crap and apologia. You don't get to trot out your silly argumentation that people have heard over and over and over again. By this point in time, it's gotten so fucking old. I don't understand why people even want to listen to it. But it's fun to listen to people put it down. We're also practiced in having heard that old tired tripe. But it's, you know, it's a comforting tune to listen to particularly talented, smart, attractive atheists go at it, you know, with ridiculous, trite, outworn, stupid arguments. It's kind of what makes the atheist community on YouTube click. But I think we can do more than that. We can actually walk the walk and be supportive of each other. And recognize that these arguments aren't the story. The arguments aren't the story at all. The arguments aren't the story at all. What's the story is the walk. Are we moving toward justice? Are we picking up the burden of actually supporting real people in their real lives? Because I will tell you, I'm getting a little bit more aggravated right now. I haven't got all my lights on. I'm not doing this. This is like, was totally impromptu. I'll tell you, the theists, the channels that we review, the foolishness we make fun of, almost all of them have a far broader reach than we do. Almost all of them. I mean, subscribers in the hundreds of thousands, with the exception of a very few of us have that, 500,000 subs and this, that, and the other thing. So sitting in a shall we say, disadvantaged position vis-a-vis these people, why are we letting them in? Is it simply for a certain kind of clout? These are the kinds of questions I ask myself when I engage in discussions with people who are problematic, to say the least. And it's always a question. I mean, if you're setting up having done some stuff on call-in shows in various venues, ACA, The Line, that's the idea of the show. You want, the sexy stuff sells. I want the trans women ought to stay out of sports because it ain't fair and blah, 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 and biology and all of that. I want those people to call in. It's great. It's fine. But I don't want any of those people to be a person who has posted before and after photos of a trans woman without her consent, their consent. I don't, that's the line I draw. I may be off the plot with this, but that's the line I draw. It's like, don't do that, because that's dangerous. It can hurt that person, not in a blah 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 blah, not in a sticks and stones sort of way, but in a physical sort of way, really. That's my line. I don't know why it's so difficult for people to. I don't know if it's difficult or it seems difficult to me after having struggled through this for months with one organization and now for minutes, thank God, for minutes with another. Which gives me some encouragement that, it's like I'm all in with Skeptic Haven. I think they're trying to do the right thing, but they're learning, right? I can't make the call for anybody else, but that's my line, and that's where I draw it, and that's where things go. And I don't know if James, you want to come in and talk about this, or if anybody else does. I'm glad to spend a few minutes. It's been, I can talk for another bit of time if if anybody has anything to say or wants to tell me I'm full of shit. I'd actually welcome somebody to come in and tell me I'm full of shit at this point in time. I'm just fucking. It's a hard struggle in this political context, and it's just gotten so much worse for trans people. And regardless as to how regardless as to how it fares for me, it's just so bad. It's very depressing. Right then, I'm gonna let's see, what do I do here? I do this thing where I do this. Yeah, I do this thing where I do this, and thank God it's muted. So I'm just gonna paste this StreamYard link in the chat. If anybody wants to come in and chat me up, walk me off the ledge, or tell me goodnight, or tell me you're, do something else. No. Done and done. So I'm here. Anybody wants to just stop in and say hello? That's the thing. I guess I'm out of words. Throw a question in the chat if you don't want to come on screen, and if there are none, I want to thank you for coming. And anybody who watches this later, I hope that it makes sense. Midnight ramblings. Oh my goodness, it's late. Oh, Carrie Ann. Yes, I will. Sort of. Kind of, sort of. Carrie Ann Chrysler asks in the chat, will you be celebrating both birthdays? Well, for hey, James, get to you in a second. Let me answer this question. Yeah, so 21 years ago, on the 12th of November, I had bottom surgery. So it's my 21st birthday. I'll finally be able to drink legally. And on the 30th of November, I was born. So yeah, those are the two birthdays I've got coming up in November. Thank you, Jester. Hey, James, how are you?
Hey there, Steph. How are you tonight?
A little on edge, but not too on edge.
So yeah, you used the phrase, talk me off the ledge. What ledge are you on?
I'm not really on a ledge. I'm all right. I just, I just feel, oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood a lot of ways.
In what ways do you feel like sometimes you're misunderstood about this stuff?
I just find it hard to convey the idea that there's a separation between the showbiz aspect of YouTube and the whole controversy thing, and when it's proper to draw the line. It's like, okay, you've got some articulate person. I mean, I'll give Otangelo that. He's persistent, he's articulate, he knows how to speak. He knows the arguments. Yes, he's got the checklist. Yes, he's got all the stuff, but he knows the arguments. But the thing is, we all know them too.
Right.
And we've talked through them, rebutted them. He's not changing his spots. He is that leopard. He ain't changing his spots.
Right.
There are tons of other people who are in exactly the same position as Otangelo Grasso, who are, we know. It's like talk to Darth Dawkins, or, the best talk with Darth Dawkins was Shannon Q talking to Darth. And it was like, I just have this question about the soul, and Darth was out of his depth. It was wonderful. If you haven't seen that video, watch that.
Nice. I have not seen it.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, Shannon just sat there and laughed. It was great.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between even Darth Dawkins. Darth Dawkins didn't go out and dox somebody and post pre-transition pictures of them and
right.
Call him and dead name him and stuff. It's not the fucking stupid arguments.
Right. Yet a lot of times, so here we are. We're trying to bring rationality and empathy and harmony and understanding to the stage. We're trying to have adult level conversations with hopefully adult level people to see if we can get somewhere, to see if we can create some understanding in the world, to see if we can help push that boulder up the hill. And it seems like most of the time we're on the Jerry Springer show.
Well,
and we're
that's
just,
it.
yeah. We're waiting for that next chair to fly. We're waiting for that next shoe to drop. There's not the conversation we're after. And a lot of people, they get so bored with it because if we're just saying things that everybody else in the room agrees with, great. There's some harmony, some connection there with that. But a lot of people get bored with it. They're like, yeah, just as much as they get bored with hearing Darth Dawkins say the same thing over and over again, they also get tired of listening to other atheists, right, or rational skeptics or whatever say the same thing over and over again.
I mean, this is where the overlap between argumentation and showbiz sits for me.
Yeah,
as like people have different styles,
mm-hmm.
and I believe that people reach different people through different styles. I appreciate the level-headed style. I think it is very effective.
Right.
New Kids on the Block, like Skeptics, Eric is great. Skeptics and Scoundrels, you've been great. Same sort of approach, same sort of thing. Ember, great. Same sort of approach, same sort of thing.
And Ember's working really hard to try to build his channel. I mean, he's showing up.
He's working really hard to build his channel. It's all good. But Ember has that. Ember does, I think, and I don't know this. I haven't really talked it through with him, but he has the same sort of spark. I just have this line in the sand. It's like you do something that is personally going after a person. I don't want to talk to you. I don't care what your beliefs are.
Right.
I don't care.
Right.
I don't care if you're an atheist or a theist or your epistemology or your ontological foundations. I don't care. You have gone after a person.
Yeah.
And that is a line I will draw. I mean, you've seen me in my reasonable argumentation mode, and also in my off the fucking chain argumentation mode.
Right.
And to me, that's often a tip of the situation involved. But at the bottom, there is a line I ain't going past.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I really have there are so many times when you're in a situation with a theist, particularly a fundamentalist, particularly with a person who harbors incredibly prejudiced views that they are trying to shield. You know, that they're not willing to expose.
Right. They don't want you to see their agenda. They don't want you to know where they're coming from.
They don't want to see. They don't want to tell you what they really think. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want, and what you really, really want is for me to disappear.
Right.
And so that's the kind of bullshit that's when you see scary stuff come out. That's when you see scary stuff come out. It's like, well, tell me what you want, what you really, really
so
want.
These bad faith actors, they come on there, and their real interest is to try to figure out a way to invalidate you.
And at the same time piss you off because, hey, that's good theater, and sometimes I'm willing to oblige, and sometimes I'm not.
Right.
And I'm keenly aware of that. I'm keenly aware of the drama. Because, in this milieu, that's the way things roll. That's what's going to get views, right? It's going to get clicks. That is, when I say eyeballs on screens and asses in seats, I don't view that as a negative.
Yeah.
But it's when is it appropriate and when is it not?
Right. Yeah, I can see that there's some utility in it sometimes, or some amusement in it sometimes. But the older I get, the less time I have for that bullshit. I've spent more time actually on like Facebook, for example, arguing with theists than I have talking about it on my channel. Like much more time, and much more time blogging too. Blogs that nobody's going to read anyways. And it's really lately I've been trying to shortcut the process. I've noticed that fundamentalists have certain quirks. One of those is almost all of them will not click on a video. They won't watch or listen to a video. And it's because they realize that there's a good chance that something's going to get through their filter, because their filter is easy to use when it's just text. They can skim text. They can look for buzzwords and key phrases and assume that they know where you're coming from, and then they can misrepresent what you're saying easier. But if they click on a video and they listen and they watch, then they can't as easily misrepresent what they're seeing and hearing. And some of it could get through their defenses. So on some level, they know that they're sitting on some bullshit, and they're trying to protect themselves from dangerous discoveries. And so if
Mhm.
I'm in a mixed forum where I want to have a discussion with the more adult people in the room and I don't want the disruptive children interrupting us, I'll just turn it into a click share a video or turn it into a video instead. Because then only the people who aren't afraid of videos will watch it. And those are the more mature people, and then I can engage with them instead. But at the same time, I've been asking myself lately, man, what am I doing? What am I
I'll be
doing?
right back. Keep talking, James. I'm
Yeah.
listening.
Okay. So, for example, I've got this stream coming up where I read from a blog where I have a discussion or debate, I guess it would be. Where was I at? Was I at Myth Vision forums? I was at one of the popular places, and there's a guy there that's really all about the culture war, the usual tropes, right? That atheists have no morality, they can't justify their morality. And it's frustrating for me because I don't know why I do it. I don't know why I lock horns with people that are bad faith actors. And there's some measure of production that can come from that. Gut Sick Gibbon has made good use of her entanglements with bad faith actors. She's used those as opportunities to teach, to help people that are new to the scene recognize what's really going on with the bad faith actors. Here's the kinds of things they say. Here's the kinds of things that they do. Here's their habits and their tactics, and here's how it plays out. Let's watch it all in action. There's a lot of people that find Erica's channel before they find the rest of the network because they're coming from a place of academia, right? They're students and their faculty and their hobbyists who care about evolution. So they go on Erica's channel and they discover that there's this Moss Isley of the internet. There's this wretched hive of scum and villainy that they didn't
Yeah.
even know was out there. There's these people, there's this subculture in our country that is just so disgusting and so dishonest and so aggressive that if you heard from one, you've heard from all of them. They all say the same things. They all ignore the same points. And it's really making people aware of just how bad can get out there in the social landscape. And so she's done a great job with educating. So she's done something positive with it. But when I do
Mhm.
my streams, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. Every once in a while, a Christian will show up and they'll leave a comment under the channel later. And they'll say, I don't think this is right. I think you're getting Christianity wrong. But then when I ask them how I'm getting Christianity wrong or some other specific thing wrong, they won't tell me. Right. And I have the same thing in Myth Vision forums that somebody will say that I've completely misunderstood a thing. And then I'll walk through each individual part of it. Okay. What about this part? Am I getting this right? They're like, yeah. I'm like, well, what about this part? Do you agree with this? And they're like, yeah. And then pretty soon I'm at the end of the whole entire chain. And I'm like, you just literally agreed with every single part of what I said. So what am I missing? And then they just don't say anything anymore. What I've noticed is a whole lot of people that listen to something reasonable and think, oh, that's wrong. They don't know why they think it's wrong. They just think it's wrong. They don't know why they think it's wrong. And so it's not just that they can't explain it. They don't know. It feels wrong to them. And they're so used to if a thing feels wrong, then it is wrong. If they're so used to thinking in those terms that they don't go any deeper than that. They themselves don't know why they don't agree. They just don't, right? And it's interesting to me because if they don't know why they don't agree, then they shouldn't have said anything at all. That's a conversation they should have had with their own self in their own head. I don't agree with that. It doesn't seem right to me. Why? Why don't I agree with that? What is it about that isn't sitting right with me? Where do I think this atheist or the skeptic or this humanist went off the rails? They should be having that discussion with themselves in their own head before they even start to type on a forum or in a comment section. And they don't. They don't have that discussion with themselves. They don't even question themselves, which is weird to me.
Purple.
Right. It means there's this whole part of the mental process that's supposed to happen in a normal, healthy brain that isn't happening in theirs. There's no process where they question themselves. There's no process where they have a discussion with their own self about what they really think and feel. It just isn't happening. And they don't even recognize that that's supposed to be happening. So when they end up in a discussion or debate with us, we're trying to walk them through a mental process that normal, healthy, developed minds have, and they're completely out of their depth. And so all they can do is recycle the stuff that they'd heard from other apologists and other culture war activists, right? It's like even in the political arena, the same thing happens. Everything's Marxism, everything's communism, everything's socialism. And when you get these people separate and you ask them what do those words mean, they don't know what those words mean. And I'm like, come on. It's like even in discussions about economics and paying workers a fair wage, they'll say, when I'll talk about raising the minimum wage, they go, that's Marxism. And I'm like, what's Marxism? They're like, I don't know, but that's it. And I'm like, well, what if we only raise it by a penny? Is that Marxism?
Well, like Justice Lewis Powell said, what's pornography? Oh, I know it when I see it.
Right. Anybody that says I know it when I see
okay, good.
Automatically,
Good on you,
automatically, I'm wondering if they've even thought it through. Right. Now, maybe they have.
No, it's just so
maybe
silly.
they're just wrestling with the fact that a gray area exists. Maybe.
It's just crazy.
But
crazy
yeah, for them,
crazy talk.
Yeah, usually it's just they're
But
just
again,
talking
it's
for the sake of talking.
The title of the thing is what happens when you just focus on the word, you don't focus on the action. Whoa, holy shit. Oh my, I just got bleached out, didn't I? Holy crow, what's going on with my camera? It's incredible, folks. This is what happens when you start things crazy. Let's go to default and see what happens. Yeah, it may be better. Yeah, there we go. I don't look quite so strange anymore.
Right. And in the meantime, we spend an awful lot of energy at times trying to keep house within our own
Wait a second.
ecosystem.
How come I
right?
can't hear James anymore?
Uh-oh.
What is up with that?
'Twas brillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the web. All mimsy were the borgobes and the momrass outgrabe.
I seem to have lost my hearing.
Beware the jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the jub bird, and shun the frumiest bandersnatch.
The capacity to listen.
He took his
whirlpool
blade in
never a good
hand.
thing, because when
Long
somebody's
time
talking,
the maxim
it's
folk he
important to
sought.
listen.
So rested he by a tum-tum tree,
Let's see if I
and
can
stood a while in thought.
ameliorate the situation.
And as an officer's thought he stood, the jabberwock
Sorry,
with eyes
James.
aflame,
I'm deaf right now.
whiffling through the tugly wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through. His vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumping back. And hast thou slain the jabberwock? Oh, come to my arms, my beamish boy. Oh, frab just stay, Kalukale, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toes did gyre and gimble in the wave. All mimsy were the borgoves, and the momrass outgrabe.
This is fucked up.
I don't know if anybody else can hear me, but Stephanie cannot hear me, and I'm talking so that she can eventually find out when she's supposed to be able to hear me. Let me come back over to chat real quick and see.
I got you. Now I got you. I don't know what happened. Somehow or another, the mighty potato decided to
Nice.
rice itself or something.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Right.
Computers, technology.
I feel you on that. My kids call me a techno boomer.
Well, I'm definitely well within that realm.
So what was I saying?
I have no idea because I couldn't hear a fucking word.
Yeah, you'll have to play it back later to see what intelligent commentary I was offering. I was just talking so that you could eventually know when you're hearing me. Because if I'm not talking, you don't know you fixed the problem or not. So I've got to.
I just want to reply. I just want to say to Jester, and I just want to say cabbages and kings to Jester, because the time is coming to talk of many things. Blah blah blah, and sealing wax and cabbages and kings. I can't remember what. I think that's Lewis Carroll, but I'm not really sure. Shoes and chips and sealing wax and cabbages and kings. Thank you, purple.
Yeah, right. So while I was waiting for
The
you
time
to,
has come, the walrus said, to talk of many things. It was the walrus and the carpenter. It was Lewis Carroll. There we go.
So the reason why they're citing that now is because I was reciting a Lewis Carroll poem from memory. So waiting for you to that way I could fill the airwaves and you could know when you found the sound.
Okay.
So I've got a stream coming up here, and I think I scheduled it for Tuesday morning, Eastern Standard Time. And it's just really where I talk about a blog I wrote in response to an antagonist that I encountered. And even though I made a lot of great points with, that's where it was at. It was under one of Shannon Q's videos. The video topic was about, has God written morality into our heart? And she made such a great point in that video that I complimented her, and I pointed out that it was a point I'd never heard before, and that's pretty rare these days. Usually, no matter what channel I go to, it's a conversation I'm familiar with. These are the points being made are points I've made myself. It's not nothing new. But every once in a while, they'll come at it from a fresh angle or something, and I appreciate it. And this was probably about 6 or 8 months ago, but I complimented her and got a heart from Shannon Q. So all this time later, somebody comes on here and starts arguing the point, right? I'm like, all right, yeah, we can have that discussion. But of course, it turned out to be a bad faith actor, right? And they've got all these. Here's the thing: like each of these fundamentalists, they have two choices the whole way through. They can just parrot what they've been taught, or they can go off on their own and carve their own path of apologetics and come up with their own theories about what these stories and verses mean. Either way is problematic, because if they're just parroting what other people are saying, then that's just groupthink. They're not making it their own. And they're not going to notice the problems that are inherent to the things that they're being taught. And if they go on their own path, go ahead.
Isn't a bit of it what you take into your brain pan and cogitate on too, though? I mean, this is the thing. I've been in various chats or been on various programs and sort of heard that certain click in somebody's, in someone who's there to have a conversation. I've heard that switch go off in their brain and say that there's a change in demeanor where, I should think about that. And those are really kind of the good conversations and the good and so many people come in with guns ablazing.
Right.
It's like, well, you need to agree with me no matter what. And it's like, I don't really.
Right.
And I don't expect you to agree with me, but let's have a conversation. And let's get around to a place, and maybe we'll walk away disagreeing. That's fine.
Yeah.
And I've heard that from people who do it in the calm, cool, collected mode, and people who are going at it mode.
Right. Now, I've had some pretty good conversations with Christians. I had DeFreak on probably about 8, 9, 10 months ago. I don't know. We had a conversation about his culture and his beliefs, and he was pretty honest. He listened, and he waited his turn, and he was civil about it, and he admitted a lot of things that he later regretted that he admitted. And but then he turned around in chat and started misbehaving all over again, treating me like the enemy. Right. And he would mock me. He'd say horrible things. People in chat would tell him to cut it out because he felt embarrassed and exposed, because he regretted the things he admitted in the conversation. He gave away the game, even worse than William Lane Craig did. And so what do you do with that? Right. In the meantime, I've kept hoping that some Christian or conservative or somebody that's got a different view on things would come on and tell me where I've gone wrong. And I just can't get them to do it. And I don't think I could be any more gentle and chill and patient than I am with them in my streams. And I figure I create a non-threatening environment. They'll want to come out and have these discussions, but they don't, and they won't. Even in chat and comment the other day, I had somebody tell me that Christy Burke was wrong and I was wrong about Christianity. And I'm like, well, tell me where we went wrong. And they're like, you'll have to ask me a specific question. And I'm like, that is a specific question. I can't ask you. I can't be more specific
You're
than that.
making the assertion that I went wrong somewhere. Why don't you tell me exactly where, and then we can talk about that?
Right.
Like,
Right. And
well,
I think the real problem is they don't know. They don't know where we went wrong. They just know we did. Like, what do I do with that? What do I do with it?
well, yeah, and it's because they have to. I mean, the problem one problem I see in a lot of philosophical or discussions about religion, particularly, or even discussions about politics and religion. Hey, it's why people like to argue about this stuff.
Right.
It stirs the juices. Gets the blood flowing or whatever.
Yeah.
Is the determination that I have to be right, no matter what. I have to be right. And that's people will at that point start saying you're being a dishonest interlocutor. It's like you're not listening anymore. At which point it can go one of two ways. It can go, well, fuck off. The end. Click. The
Right.
phone is a two-way instrument. Click. Or it can be, okay, well, I'll need to think about that more. Maybe we can pick up the conversation later. But at this point in time, I don't know if we're going to get any further with it. Or, fuck the fuck off. And sometimes I get to the fuck the fuck off point with or the I'm just going to laugh at this because it's a egregiously stupid argument.
Yeah.
But I'm never gonna get to the point. I hope I don't get to the point in an argument. It was like I do get to the point in an argument where it's like fuck the fuck off because we've got nothing more to say to each other. You're just full of beans and
Yeah, a lot of these people they get so dedicated to a narrative that they're completely invested in it. They've seeded their identity and worth in it. And they're just up in arms about the culture war. They just want the cathartic release of beating up a culture war enemy. It's all they're after.
And I don't understand the culture war. I don't understand why it's anybody's concern, really. I don't care what you do in your bedroom.
Right.
I really don't. I'm not interested. I was like, I think it's crazy.
Right. If the government wanted to care about what they do in their bedroom, they would stand on principle. None of your damn business what happens in my bedroom. But what other people, if they don't like it, what other people might be doing, then they care. Then the government should care. And I'm like, come on, just at least be consistent about what your views and values really are.
Yeah, and that's the issue. I care about people imposing their requirements, especially in intensely personal things on other people. I think that's it's like, wait a minute, you got to draw a line here.
Right. Yeah, the Republican Party's actually been talking about eventually coming after people's more specific bedroom rights, like banning sodomy, for example, any form of sodomy. And I'm like,
oh wow, that would be novel, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And
this is the thing that drives me nuts, James, being a woman of a certain age. Is like, that would be really novel. I mean,
how are they even going to enforce that?
I recall, homosexuality was illegal in the UK until quite recently, to be honest.
Yeah.
Likewise in the U.S. in many states, it's just not. It's amazing how much people have forgotten. Even in my lifetime, people have forgotten.
The public has a very short memory, not just a short attention span, a short memory. So, for example, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, her dad, um, just Huckabee Sanders, I can't remember her dad's. He's a politician too.
Mike,
Mike Huckabee, that's what it is.
Mike,
Yeah. So
Mike.
it hasn't been but about 10 years ago that his idea for dealing with the immigration crisis coming up from south of the border was to position a bunch of warships along the coast. And then whenever thermal imaging and everything, and when they see anybody trying to cross just, on land, to bombard them with bombs, just blow
Yeah,
them into
shoot 'em.
pieces.
Yeah,
And
shoot 'em.
and that's just so crazy. And it's just like everybody forgets that he said that.
Effective.
Sure,
I
effective.
mean, no person, no problem. There you go. It's not.
It is crazy. We've got big parts of this country that are underdeveloped, like even on the West Coast, where the terrain is so rugged and so uneven and so thick that we could make good use of that space, but nobody wants to go in and clear it out, and nobody wants to live in those more remote areas. So here we have all this land that nobody's using, that nobody wants to make an investment into developing. With all these people south of the border that are so desperate for a new life, they'd be willing. You give them the tools and equipment they need, they'd be willing to turn that place, those regions, into something so habitable that more Americans could actually make use of the space, right? They could say, hey, make it a plan where gradually they reach a certain point where the land is so farmable and so walkable, etc. But we give them the tools to do it with, right? Um, or we could even be training people south of the border on how to do that for themselves down there, right? We could be teaching people renewable energies and vertical hydroponic farming and the latest technologies, and giving them the tools they need to make a life for themselves down there, so they don't feel like they have to be so desperate to come over here, right? We could be working it out with the government itself. We'll give you the free education. We'll include you guys as part of some Zoom or some distance education. You guys can come up here and go through some classes. We'll sponsor the classes for you. And you can go back down there and teach your people how to do this, right? And then people will be able to provide for themselves down there. It's not that it's not possible. It's just that people don't know how. They have to be taught. They need to be given those tools. So when people come up here, it's because they don't know what else to do. And it's not always the reason. Sometimes they're trying to escape warlords or something, and gang violence, which is another issue. But if you help create safe spaces down there, then those people will have some place to go. They'll have some place to build up their lives. So this idea,
James, hang on just a second. I just want to say, hey, Purple, and I want to give Purple a chance to plug her GoFundMe right now, because I know that Purple's trying to get her car fixed and stuff, and I know she's got a thing, so I'm just gonna say, put it in the chat. Yes,
GoFundMe for what?
She's got car issues of major proportions, and she's needs some help. So I just want to say that.
All right.
I don't have a link, but I have run across that, and I just want to say, please feel free. Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Purple rhymes with orange. Is that a reference to something that I don't know? Is that a pop culture reference?
Nothing rhymes with orange.
All right.
It's one of those things, and it's like pick up a rhyming dictionary or anything. Nothing rhymes with orange. But for purple, purple rhymes with orange because they happen to be her favorite colors. I think I got that right. I don't know. There we go. Thanks, lady. So if any of you out there, in the past, present, or future, well, not the past, because we can't restream this back into, I don't know. Where would you jump back to if you jumped back in the past?
It depends on what form that jumping back would take. If we're just transferring my consciousness back, I want to do the whole thing over again, transferring back to when I was like 6 years old. We'll just start from there. But if we're talking about like physically, like I go into some portal and I end up there as my over 50-year-old self now, then I guess that's a good question. I would probably go back far enough in time to warn me about the women that I was going to date. Don't do it. Don't do it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Where would you go?
In history, I think I would find it interesting to explore 12th century England. A time of incredible turmoil, and the after 1066 and all of that stuff, and the Norman invasion and the Anglo-Saxon stuff. I think that would be fun. In my own life, I would totally go back to when I was a child and move that child into a situation where the medical the medical understanding and the psychological understanding of trans people was at a point where it is today, but the political context was not. So I would take me as a small child and move them to probably, if I'm picking a time, it'd have to be after the 2000s. Probably 2005.
That's fair.
That's kind of where I'd go and start all over again from there.
Carrie Ann was saying something about the Iron Age. I guess I could learn the languages and go back and figure out who this Jesus guy was, and maybe try to get him some mental help.
I think Jesus is just all right with me.
Fair,
but it's all context and it's all stories too.
Yeah, there's no way to know.
I really don't. I'm one of these people that doesn't believe that humans have changed altogether that much. I don't think people have changed. People's circumstances certainly have. But I don't think people have. I think people are scared of all sorts of things.
Right. They're scared of consequences in a cultural context, and so they'll behave the way that they must, however they think they must within the culture, and they'll get away with whatever they think they can get away with for the most part, most people. So if you were to transplant somebody that behaves pretty well today in our society, into a society that it's much more lenient about what you can get away with, I think most people would start behaving very much worse very quickly. But not all people, right? Some people have a very developed sense of who they are and very clarified set of integrities that they wouldn't compromise on no matter where they were at. But I think that that's pretty rare. And most people, I think, are just responding to the environment that they're in. And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty cynical, I think, when it comes to humanity.
I guess in that sense, I kind of am too. Again, it's with the because I just don't think people have changed psychologically a great deal.
I agree.
So we've evolved. Our technology has changed. A whole bunch of stuff has changed. What we know about stuff has changed.
Right.
And some of us are what I've seen in the past maybe 15 years is particularly on the right, is a just heels digging in. I mean, when you think about what has changed in the course of the past 70 years, in 1953, when I was born, there was legal segregation in this country. Legal segregation. Queer people were illegal and they could be imprisoned for being who they are. All sorts of things were that throughout my life, the things that I actually fought to change myself. Through political action, through putting myself on the line for some of this shit.
Yeah.
The retrenchment over the course of the past decade, nearly, I mean, it's astonishing how quickly from 2015 to now we've regressed.
Right. How much of that
in
do
the
you think
United
is because
States.
how much of that do you think is because of Trump? It was already happening before he came on the scene, but
here's my again with taking the longer view. What we're seeing now, the Republican Party of today, is the John Birch Society. Bill Buckley was an asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah, the National Review, publication that's still in print.
Yeah.
He was an asshole. A racist asshole, a homophobic asshole, and a terrible human being. I mean, you literally called Gore Vidal a fag on national television.
Wow.
There's footage of it. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Queer. You goddamn queer were the exact words. Don't you dare call me a Nazi, you goddamn queer. Was
Wow.
He said that at the Republican National Convention to Gore Vidal in 1968.
Wow.
On live TV. So it's like, people seem to think, oh, well, we're all together, we're so divided and all of this. It's like, well, yeah, we are, but there were dogs in this and fire hoses and churches burning, and it's like, I remember this is in my memory. I mean, I remember this stuff from the TV, right?
Wow.
So it's not really altogether that weird to think that America's fucked up,
Yeah.
or to think that homophobia is a thing. But even Bill Buckley couldn't take the rabid fascism of the John Birch Society, which was extreme. Robert Welsh, Robert Welsh was funded and supported strongly by Eisenhower's Secretary of Agriculture, who happened to also be a prophet, not a prophet, but among the central authority of the Mormon Church in Utah. And it's like this toxic brew of religious fundamental right wing. I mean, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is called the Latter-day Saints for a reason. They thought they were in the latter days in the 1820s, and they still think they are.
Right. Every day is in the latter days. Every century is the latter days.
Every day is the latter days, and it's been the latter days. And this is a problem. It's been the latter days for Christians since the days of Paul.
Right. Since the later first century, it's been the last days.
Right.
We're in the end times. We're in the end times. Any day now.
Right. Or since, actually, to be honest, I do believe in the interpretation of Jesus' ministry is he considered himself to be an apocalyptic,
Sure.
In the tradition of Daniel and the apocalyptic visions of Judaism in Palestine at the moment, during his time.
Yeah.
But we haven't gotten over it. Haven't gotten over it, and we're still laboring under this over a pushback against Enlightenment ideals, not perfection. Appreciations of how it could be different. I mean, there have always been people who basically made their commitment to being better in the here and now, and people who think that that's bullshit because there's a hereafter.
Right.
That the here and now is dispensable, because in the end, this is a way station.
Right.
I'm just a pilgrim on this road, boys. I'm just a pilgrim on this road. You know, it's going to a higher place of existence, and a different place. It's this veil of tears and all of this stuff. What a shitty way to appreciate life.
Yeah, to see it as something you can't wait to get away from, is something that you
Right.
have to go through in order to get to something better.
That, to me, is the problem with Christianity. To me, it's a problem with the Abrahamic faith. The foundation is that you are born in sin.
Right.
That you require redemption in the first place.
Right.
That redemption is something that humans by nature. I mean, there's a real distinction between recognizing that we are flawed
Hmm.
as people and that we are evil as
Right.
people, that we are flawed and have the capacity, have the intellectual, mental, spiritual, if you want to call it that, capacity to recognize our flaws and take steps to ameliorate the flaws that we all possess by structuring society to address them. That
Right.
leads to legal systems, to moral systems, to a whole bunch of this stuff. And the doctrine that we are flawed in the sight of an external force,
Right.
that we are bound to, that we are bound to account to. It's the I forget. There's a I don't want to get it's to use Freudian terms. It's like God is the ultimate superego. You know, it's like God the Father, God Daddy, God, blah 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 blah.
Right.
I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I've talked a lot about that on my streams, and I always feel like I don't know if I'm helping atheists or rational skeptics or whatever. Like, have they heard this before? Or are they not? I'm never sure. And then with the Christians, I either get no response or I get told that I've misunderstood Christianity, but then they can't explain where I went wrong. And I'm like, well, then what can we do with that conversation, right? But yeah, it externalizes the locus of identity. It says I can't define who I am or what I'm worth unless I defer to somebody external to me to tell me who I am and what I'm worth. And if anybody that's ever been a parent and raised children, assuming they eventually got a clue about how to do that, because most of us struggle at first because we've never been a parent before. It's understandable. They recognize that what you really want for your children is for them to outgrow their dependencies and for them to develop a well-defined sense of who they are in the world that's healthy and empowering and
Well,
clarifying.
not in Cat in a Hot Tin Roof. It depends. I mean, there are all these stories. That's why we have stories. We make these stories up because we all struggle with this. And really, fundamentally, we all struggle with the idea that we're mortal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's not, it's like, so I have a bit more of an affinity towards religious traditions that just sweep that away. It's like, yeah, you're immortal, so there's whatever, there's the transmigration of souls and all of that other bullshit, and it's like, yeah, but wouldn't it be better if we just sort of took a realistic approach, looked at what is right in front of our eyes, that everything passes, everything dies,
Right.
and something will go on. And if we want something to go on that is in any way, shape, or form recognizable towards what we view as being just and loving and compassionate towards the earth, towards each other, we only have one shot at it. We only have one shot at this.
Yeah.
As individuals. And that And that's actually, I believe, to be incredibly empowering. It's like, well, let's try. Let's just do our best.
Right.
You know, it's
Right,
just
right.
crazy. I just think it's, it's like we could try that for a change, and that's the people that I find. That's my problem with religion, is that the externalization of what should be common knowledge. Everything dies.
Right.
We are all dependent upon death. There is nothing. I could be a vegetarian. I would still be dependent upon death.
Right.
And the oxygen I breathe is the result of a wholesale poisoning of the earth by stromatolites. Poison the atmosphere. Oxygen is corrosive. I mean, it's like there's no grand plan that I can see, and the only plan that is convincing to me are the ones that are spread about. Now, you could if you were a progressive Christian, take the saying of Jesus from the Gospel of Thomas that says the kingdom of God is spread upon the earth, but you do not see it, as a metaphor for that outlook.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't dismiss a theist position that says that reads that as allegory, that reads the story as allegory.
Right.
Because it encourages people to not be assholes.
Right. Right. And I feel the same way. Point for point, idea for idea. What's healthy for humanity and what's not? We can recognize that, then we can say, okay, well, the stuff that's not, let's set that aside. The stuff that is, let's keep it and work with it. And the problem is that fundamentalists don't recognize the difference between health and unhealth. Or they think
this is why my relatives still speak to me. This 70-year-old trans woman who it's like, we all grew up in the church, and we all grew up doing this stuff, and we all basically came out kind of in the same place. Although I've dropped the veil of religion to it. But I understand the veil of religion. I think it's cool.
Sure.
I mean, it's fine. You believe that, great.
Yeah.
But these assholes that come on and go on the line, or go on ACA, or go on Skeptic, or it's like whatever, all the fucking call-in stuff, and which is why I love the call-in stuff, because I'll say this shit, and I do know the Bible, and I do know all this stuff, and I'm happy to talk about it, but it's still, at the end of the day, I don't feel any sting from a theist telling me I'm going to die, and what will I say to my maker? And I will say, I don't think he's there.
Right.
Yes, I know I'm going to die. It's like, as if that's going to scare me.
Right.
Why is that going to scare me? Why should it scare anybody? You are the people that are teaching people to be scared.
Right. To be scared of a God who supposedly is love makes no sense at all.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. It's, and that's where, everything gets convoluted. That there are no people more obsessed with sex than fucking religious people.
Right.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
It's nuts. It's
Right.
like, hey, and it's a natural mammalian, actually any being trait is to like have an urge to get it on, because there's the reproductive thing, and then there's just the plain fact that it's fun.
Sure.
And I don't understand why, it is only demonized because the temporal is sacrificed for a concept of an eternal that you will never see.
Right.
These people want to bring the eternal into the temporal out of context. Like, you are going to be eternal.
Right. They just don't really think it through. Like, for example, if a creator designer gave us these urges, these impulses, these desires, and then wants to damn us for acting upon them, or is offended that we think about these things or do these things, that means that the creator designer led us astray, that he designed temptation into us and then faults us for being tempted. Right. And it's like, come on, none of that makes any sense at all. I didn't choose to have the design that I have. If we want to suppose that creator designer designed me, then they made me prone to whatever I'm prone to. They gave me the shortcomings and the struggles and and everything else and then just left me there to sort it all out for myself, right? Doing the best that I can. And if they're going to damn me for that, it just doesn't make any sense. Nobody, and this is like one of the most important points for me. Nobody has ever been beyond like psychological or interpersonal redemption. If you take the most evil, awful people, Hitler or Jeffrey Dahmer, no, we don't have the science and the tools to be able to help somebody like that. Once they're that far gone, all we can do is try to put them in a special facility, keep them from harming themselves and others. But if you're a god, then you know exactly how somebody's engineered, how they're wired neurologically. You know exactly where they went off the rails and what it would take to fix that. You know what conversations you need to have. You know what neurosurgery you need to perform with magic. You know how to fix this person without overriding their will, their right to self-determination. People that have certain impulses that they're vulnerable to, well, they don't know how to get past it. They don't know that they need to. They wouldn't know how to do it, even if they did know how to, did want to. And there's just never been. When I think about my exes, one ex in particular who was a extreme sociopath and narcissist, I don't want her thrown away like trash forever or harmed or go to a hell. I want there to be a God who can fix her to help restore the humanity that she lost along the way. So then
That
she
has to
can.
come. That
What?
has to come from within, though. I mean, it's like
It has to, but that's because that's the reality. But if there were a God, it wouldn't make any sense for them to throw everybody away that they don't like. You didn't do good enough, I'm going to throw you away forever. Like, no, help these people. Don't throw them away.
The difference between a Hitler and a Dahmer is the degree of enabling that is provided by the people around them.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, the difference between and I don't want to compare Trump to Hitler, but it's like the difference between authoritarians and your average run-of-the-mill narcissist is people around them elevate them to that role,
right?
And they gain control over other people's lives on the basis of a promise that they make to the people that do elevate them, that they are the chosen ones somehow or another.
Right.
That is also a feature of Abrahamic religion that is very abhorrent to me, that we've imagined this being who has said that we are special.
Right.
And that others are out groups. But that's a very human thing, you know. That's a very hominin thing,
Right.
of in groups and out groups and stuff. I mean, it's a heritage of our of who we are.
But we can grow past it. It's just that the people aren't
Yeah,
getting the education they need during their formative years, and they're so stuck in these dysfunctional cultures that they can't see their way out. They think they are where they need to be. So,
but again, the reading is there. If you want to do the, if you know the with the this is why I often have arguments with people saying, "Well, the Bible's a terrible book." It is a terrible book. I'll grant them that it's a terrible book. But the people that will take the text, or at least take the language, and interpret it in such a fashion as to allow them agency in the here and now, to do good things in the here and now, those people are fine with me.
yeah.
And that it's like, all right, I'll go with the since by man came death, by man came also the resurrection and the light. Right? Take that verse. All right.
Mhm.
Since by man came death, well, who's responsible for dreaming up this murderous God? We are.
Right.
Who's responsible for changing that outlook?
Same
And
people.
taking the outlook that we are stewards of the earth, and we're responsible for maintaining it, gardeners really,
Right.
that we have a responsibility to the planet, to each other. By man came also the resurrection and the light. Like, you can take that and make a sermon out of it, and I know people who do. And I want that preached.
Right.
I want to spread that idea. I mean, I know it's bullshit from within, you know, I would just like, some Bible thumper's going to take me and say, well, that's not what God, you're going to stand before your maker and blah, 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 and you're going to burn in hell. It's like, well, cool. You can say that. But, you know, but it's bullshit.
Yeah, it's bullshit. They're just
That's
stuck in a
bullshit.
story. They're stuck in a story, and they think that you're stuck
In
there
a
too.
story.
Yeah.
And it's every story can be, it's from a certain point of view.
Sure.
I forgot what that literary reference was.
What, the certain point of view thing?
Yeah, I'm.
It sounds like a quote from Star Wars to me.
Yeah, it is actually a quote from Star Wars.
So, like when Obi-Wan was having a conversation with Luke, like, Luke, you're gonna find in life that the realities that we cling to depend on a certain point of view, right? So, from a certain point of view, it's true that that Darth Vader killed Anakin Skywalker, right? But in another point of view, it's true that Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader, right? So he's like, I can't lie to you. It's
Like
just,
Obi-Wan Kenobi, like Anakin Skywalker killed Anakin Skywalker.
yeah,
And became Vader.
right.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. It's
Anyway.
whatever. Religion doesn't really solve the problem of who is who, anyways. All these problems about you can live forever in a paradise or whatever. And I'm like, well, what is the I? Because I'm constantly changing. I am not. This is the thing that Christians can't seem to wrap their head around. I was never born. I wasn't born. Not really. We say it as a narrative perspective, but technically it's not true. Really, it's not true. Because the person that was born with this genetic profile and these fingerprints and this everything else, this name, they've been replaced already seamlessly. Every single cell in their body's been replaced. They've got all new
Every
perspectives.
7 years, mate.
Yeah, all new perspectives and relationships and life circumstance and appearance, and everything gets changed. It's like a storm that moves across the sky. And at first, it starts off as a small local storm, a few clouds kind of rumbling and a little bit of rain. And as it keeps getting fed by the environment, it grows into this larger and larger structure of happenings. So there's all these energetic
Yeah.
things happening within the clouds. Now, if we imagine the clouds, like the water vapor inside clouds and the tiny, tiny bits of electricity that are jumping across those water molecules, it's like the synapses in the brain. If we imagine that the clouds are sentient, and this storm is a larger accumulative sentience. It's moving across the sky. The whole time that it's moving across the sky, it's spending out its resources. It's gathering in new resources. It's spending out even the energy within it. And it's constantly changing shapes. It's constantly changing relationship to not only itself, but its environment, and it's moving across the sky. So we say that it's the same storm, Hurricane Stephanie, moving across the sky. But
Yeah, that's me.
exactly
I
right.
am indeed Hurricane
Hurricane
Stephanie
Stephanie.
moving through the world.
Right. So it's a practical frame of reference to say that this Hurricane Stephanie now is a continuation of the Hurricane Stephanie from years ago. It's kind of true, right? It's a narrative, it's a story, it's a continuation. But at the same time, it's also not true that it's the same person, right? Because you've changed. You're this other person now. You're this new iteration of the storm. So when Christians tell me that I can live forever in a heaven, I'm like, well, what does that really mean, right? What about me is going to be there? That's going to be a direct continuation of who I am. The Jehovah's Witnesses had this big problem because I'm like, look, when you talk about a resurrection, you're describing a replacement, that God is going to make a perfect clone of me, but this one's going to be better, right? And he's going to replace me with that clone who's going to have my sense of identity, right? They're going to have my premise of identity, maybe my name, maybe something about them will be familiar, maybe they'll have some of my memories, and so they'll build upon that with for an identity, but it's still a clone, right? Now, Jehovah's Witnesses don't recognize that that's a problem, but think about it. What if he made that replacement before the first one dies? And now you're both standing here in the same room, meeting each other. There's your resurrected self. Here's your now self that's still problematic in this from this world. Now you can see the problem. Now you recognize that that's a replacement. It's not you, right? And Jehovah's Witnesses can't resolve that problem. Now, I would put forth that all resurrection theologies have that problem. It's just less obvious when you talk about transforming somebody into spirit form. So, eventually, everything about you in heaven is going to be replaced by new thoughts, new feelings, new emotions, new ideas, or not. If not, then your existence is going to be entirely stagnant, and that's going to be miserable. And what's even the point of it? But if it's not stagnant, if it's active and dynamic and ever changing and flowing, even better than it was down here, then the you that exists 1,000 years from now or 1,000,000 years from now is not in any way, shape, or form the you that made it there in the first place. And definitely not the same you that was down here on earth. You're going to be replaced whether you want to be or not. The life of the thing is the death of the thing. It's very much like if you light a candle, if you light a fire on top of a wick, you can say a minute later that it's the same fire you lit there on the candle, but it's not. The original fuel has already been burnt and spent and recycled into the universe. The light that you were seeing has already reached your eyes and then been transformed into other forms of energy. The heat that defines the fire also has already been recycled back into the universe. The candle is now lower. The wick is now a different part of the wick. Everything's different. But we say it's the same fire that we lit as a practical frame of reference. It's part of a story of continuation, but it's technically not. Very much that way with us. And I've made peace with this. If you look at something that's exploding, like there's a supernova, in that moment, that phenomenon is the most alive it's ever been. It's a dynamic happening. It's radiant and it's explosive and it's like, hear me roar. But the life of that event is also the death of the event, like a firework. The life of a thing is the death of the thing. It's just two different ways
Of
of,
course.
of looking at the same thing. So when
Of
Christians
course.
tell me about how I can live forever, or in one kind of place or another kind of place, they're not understanding the nature of existence. They're not understanding the nature of identity and story. And
Well,
because
they would, the argument that the pushback is we can go into these things ad infinitum. That their pushback is going to be, well, but everything you say is true, but it's all dependent on the will of God. And it's like, all right, if everything I say is true, then why is it dependent on the will of God? Because it's that you're insisting on this external force to account for all of this stuff, and you may be right, you may be wrong. Personally, I think most of what you said is just It's the only thing that matters is now. The only thing that matters is what uh what the physical world is telling us. That's why dealing with matters of being better stewards of the earth and stop fucking it over,
right,
being better stewards of ourselves and stop fucking each other over,
right,
is the most important thing, because you can always take well, it doesn't really matter because Christ is coming. It is just a cop out. It's a cop out. It allows people an excuse to do despicable things in the name of a story that they made up.
right. No, they don't all do despicable things, right? There's what you call progressive Christians who aren't out there spreading hate, who aren't out there spreading destruction. And I do
But it
appreciate
comes
them for
down
that.
to the same principle. It's like, uh, if you take to heart the notion that um, humans are capable of causing death, and humans are also capable of producing life and better life for the earth and each other, and that we really have a responsibility to do that, it comes down to the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can take the verse I cited and say that by man came death and man is evil. That is the teaching of fundamentalist Christianity.
Sure.
Man is evil, and by the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, that evil is redeemed. But it's not redeemed in the here and now. That's the weakness of Christianity. It's not redeemed in the here and now. It's redeemed for you individually in the hereafter, and you no longer have a responsibility to anyone else or anything else. You only have a responsibility to God and to your faith in Jesus Christ. That is garbage.
Right, and encourages selfishness. It creates a
Right.
selfish focus.
That is garbage.
Sure.
That's a garbage belief in my view. I just think it's terrible.
Well, I agree. And then usually the churches will brag about how they're trying to be good to each other. They're encouraged to be good to each other. But I'm like, that's still racism, right? It's an artificial racism. It's people in white robes and white hooded hats saying, "Oh, but we're good to each other." I'm like, I don't give a shit if
Yeah, and
Klansmen are
they're
good to each other. I want to hear about how let's be good to everybody.
right. And we can go into the story of, it's like, well, whatever. Anyway, it's been 2 hours, 8 minutes, and 44 seconds, and I really
Yeah,
didn't intend to go on
wrap
this
this up.
long. I
Appreciate it.
appreciate you, James, for coming in and chatting, and this has been actually somewhat cathartic for me. I hope it's been a good conversation.
Yeah,
I appreciate everybody who's hung out in the chat for all this long, but I think it's like coming on 4 o'clock in the morning for me right now, and I really actually have to do shit tomorrow.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, me too. So,
But I really, for those of you who hang out and listen to me babble, I so much appreciate it because it's a jungle out there.
yeah, it's a jungle out there.
It's jungle out there.
Right.
So good night.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for being here with us, and I'll talk to you guys soon.